Hello and welcome to My Xbox and Me, episode 482. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, alongside the one and only, and I mean literally just the one. It is the one and only Too Fresh Crash. Crash. Just the two of us.
Abandoned us.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I.
You happy?
Am I happy that it's just me and Jude
right now?
Oh, it's just me and Jude. Look, yeah. Can we just talk about so the boys have been with us now. I don't know, probably it's been a while now. Probably a couple of years, right?
Yeah, Matt's been a couple of years. Despawn's been
gotta be just over a year now, surely.
Just over, just under.
Over under? Someone will go and check. I don't know. Over under. I would say
no, it's been like 5 years.
Guys, he's been here for like ever. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, anyway, yeah, but this is the first time we've done a two-man podcast in a while. I'm sure someone will go back and be like, it was like 4 weeks ago. But it feels like it's been a while. So yeah, just me and Crush this week on the podcast. Despawn is currently sick. Matt is currently dead. And yeah, it's just us.
Do nothing about that.
Can't do nothing about it. If you don't know, this is My Xbox and Me, our weekly Xbox podcast, right here on youtube.com/myxboxandme and all podcast services. On this week's episode, we will be talking all things PlayStation State of Play. We'll be talking all things Xbox Tokyo Game Show, and we'll be talking about some Ubisoft news as well. Again, if you want to support us financially, head over to patreon.com/mcfixer. Make sure you drop a sub over on Twitch, on twitch.tv/myxboxandme, and all of that good stuff. But before we get into that, Crash, how you been? How's life? How's life treating you?
Life's been treating me fantastic. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. We're going with fantastic. Okay, well, you say that, then I need to know what has made life fantastic. You get that, right?
You put me on the spot.
For a man who doesn't like to share too much, you can't come out with fantastic and then have nothing to back it up. You know that, right?
There was nothing to back up fantastic in the first place.
You were just like, let me just use a word to describe something. Let me just pull one out of the air. He won't ask me a follow-up question. Fuck no, there's no way he'll do that. He won't put me under the... He won't actually follow up and be like, oh, what is fantastic in my life? Well, Crash... I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that your life is going fantastic. I'm so happy you're willing to share all of that fantastic news with the audience. Speaking of fantastic news, though, big congratulations to fan of the show, Toplift, is expecting twins. Congratulations. Clap, 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 clap. Congratulations, Toplist, on you and your partner expecting your twins. I hope they're both healthy and everything goes swimmingly. Shout out to the community. Would only know that because of the My Xbox and Me Discord. So if you've not joined that, make sure you go and check that out. I guess we'll go straight into the topic of the show this week, Crash. State of Play. It happened. We reacted to it over on the My Xbox and Me channel, which you can go watch, and the Twitch channel. If you want to check out the VOD, you can do just that. I went in with quite high expectations. You and Despawn very much more muted expectations, which was probably the right way to go. But I thought we would talk about everything that has been shown at the PlayStation showcase that relates to Xbox. Overall, what did you think of the show before we get into the nitty-gritty?
I thought it was good. I thought they covered like a lot of bases. I think the production, the pacing, nothing overstayed its welcome, which I feel like showcase wise for almost a lot of the showcases we've been talking about, especially during E3 with Xbox, what Xbox has done in general have been very pacing wise great. I feel like a lot of these companies are starting to like sort of figure out their pacing a bit better.
Other than Keighley,
to say it's always amazing.
Other than Keighley, I think. Other than Keighley, I think
that's a good point.
I think everybody else nails their pacing. I think Xbox did a really good job with their showcase. PlayStation now with their State of Play. Nintendo with their directs are always very well paced, if we're being honest. Yeah. Other than Keighley, I would say, but I guess Keighley's got the hardest job of them all, right? He is bringing together. I know Xbox and PlayStation do, but they can curate a little bit better than what I would say Keighley can. In terms of the type of show that they're producing. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought the PlayStation Showcase was paced quite well. It was missing a few things that I was expecting. But
I guess.
Absolutely, Crash. Why don't you guess? Why don't you guess, Crash?
Were you expecting Resident Evil?
I was, Crash. I was expecting Resident Evil 9, unfortunately.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
When do you think now that it's not announced here?
But it has to be next year now, right?
Yeah.
So
right?
so again, the Resident Evil Twitter went ablaze when it wasn't shown because again there are certain insiders that were alluding to the fact that it would be shown. And now apparently the rumor is there's been an internal delay on Resident Evil 9. So
maybe a last minute decision to pull it out and not show it just yet.
No, I just think it's influencers being influencers, you know. They get a speck of information and then run with it because they know it's going to drive them Twitter likes and engagement, which means they get paid. And hey, I'm there to bite on it each and every damn time. I'm there for it, you know. There's not a franchise out
one
there.
Of the times.
Hey, what?
That's what the people who want Bloodborne say. One of these times.
We'll get onto that. The PlayStation Showcase, again, we're not talking about anything that was PlayStation exclusive, just strictly things that were coming to Xbox. We will start off with the game, which was probably my biggest surprise of the showcase, not in terms of it's a well-known thing or anything like that, but just from what we got to see of it, which was Hell Is Us. This is the
It looked like Souls-like-esque.
Souls-like-esque. I am more put it in the Death Stranding aesthetically. I'm talking about here aesthetically, not gameplay. But aesthetically, very Death Stranding-y. Muted grey, dark colors. It looked really good. I liked what I saw of it. You were a fan of this one as well, if I'm not right. If I'm correct, right?
Yeah. I think as far as like new games shown here, this was probably my favorite thing. I don't know how many new games were actually shown here that we didn't know about previously, but yeah, this was definitely one of the highlights of the showcase in general. I think the game looked cool. I think the setting looked dope. Thematically, some of the stuff they have going on seems like it could be interesting. Now, whether they execute it or not, that's a completely different conversation. But they had me very, very intrigued with the bits that they did show here for the game.
Yeah, its color palette reminds me of like the opening levels of Demon Souls. If you ever played that, the remake of that on PlayStation, very dark gray. There are definitely, as the trailer went on, we saw a lot more color palette throughout it. But yeah, I liked it. I'm hoping it's not as hard as a Dark Souls or a Demon Souls or a Souls-like, if I'm honest. I'm hoping it's more akin to that play style, but in an action adventure-y, more skill-based. So, if you know what I mean by that.
A bit more action-oriented.
Exactly. There is the main character who reminded me of Ethan Winters, by the way, as well. Like, they did this thing at the end of the trailer where they show him with a hat on. I'm like, Jesus, you look way too much like Ethan. That turns me off. Hopefully you got more personality than him. So, we'll see. Is
that how Capcom showed off Ethan?
Capcom showed off... How did Capcom show off Ethan? Jesus, that's a great question. I don't remember how they showed him off.
I don't know if they ever did.
Well, I remember when Resident Evil 7 first got shown, it was very VR heavy, wasn't it? Like, they were very much like...
It's first person, and that's
first person. They didn't say too much about it.
The person exists, but it doesn't exist.
That's kind of what they said, because the first... Again, we're getting into way too many tangents. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. We're going to get into our Resident Evil podcast at this point. After that, well, not after that, but the next game I would like to talk about is Archage Chronicles. This was the MMO... How would you explain this? It was the RPG, MMO, online...
yeah, I think they said it's like 10 players per instance or something like that.
Okay.
I believe that was this game. It looked really pretty. Like if it ends up being as it looks, that's fantastic. The problem with a lot of MMOs is they show very pretty, and then the time the game actually comes and it's like, oh, that's nowhere near this, kind of going into like PS3 territory a lot of times. Which we'll see. Hopefully it does. It's smaller instances. Maybe it'll look better. Unreal Engine 5, I'm sure, will be a boost to like those type of experiences where games will live up more to, at least visually, the trailer that's shown. Maybe not the gameplay fidelity, which we'll have to see with time. But this looked really clean from what they did show, I think.
Again, similar combat system to literally what we just spoke about. To be honest with you, not when you say MMO, some people might be thinking like Final Fantasy Online, things like that. Nothing like that in the slightest. More an action-based MMO title.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of like Black Desert. If anybody's played Black Desert or Black Desert gameplay, it gave me a lot more vibes of that than anything else.
Yeah, the thing I liked of this the most, like you say, looked pretty from what they showed. Story seemed quite interesting, which is always where MMOs seem to lose me, if I'm honest. I like MMOs a lot. Their stories are never the thing that keep me in an MMO. It's more me playing with my friends or whatever it is I've decided to grind that day. But the story of this one looks relatively interesting for what we've seen in the small dose of what we've seen. But yeah, looks good, very interesting, and could be one to check out in the future. Power World got its Shadow Drop, finally launching on PlayStation. Probably the best trailer for Power World, if I'm honest, from what we got to see, which makes sense makes sense considering the game's been out for God knows how long. They know exactly what the game is and know how to show it. They know everything about it.
They know what people like.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, congratulations to PlayStation fans. Obviously, Shadow dropped that it came out then and there in every region other than Japan.
Yeah, which sucks if you're in Japan.
Sucks if you're in Japan, or go buy an Xbox. I mean, it's not stopped there. You can play it on Xbox in Japan.
That's a good point. Yeah, so, for the next couple of months until
until Nintendo do what Nintendo do. But it didn't really have no new content or anything like that.
No,
from what they showed, which I'm kind of surprised about.
Yeah, I was surprised, but also like I'd imagine for PlayStation fans, it is all brand new content, right? This is for PlayStation fans. They didn't spend a lot of time on it. I was with you where I thought they would show like the next expansion or a raid or something like that. They showed nothing, but there has been a slew of new content since we last played, at least.
Yeah,
and we've never gone back to check it. So I'm sure
it's probably the one game on my list to go back and play.
Yeah, after the Nintendo lawsuit, I reinstalled it because I was like, I have to play it at some point before it goes away forever. Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, I get you. Well, I didn't get very far at all, to be honest with you. I got caught up in the very opening of that game, really, of like building my base up. Like, you guys ran off and did like dungeons and things, and I was like, every time I tried to do a dungeon, I crashed, if I remember rightly.
That's the problem with release. Like, if you weren't playing solo, it was very tough to get the multiplayer working consistently. Yeah, which hopefully that's better now.
Yeah, with the thought so.
I'd imagine it is.
Yeah. You would have thought so. After that, we had, what do I want to talk about? Let's do Dragon Age next, Crash. I totally forgot Dragon Age was coming, if I'm being totally honest. You guys reminded me that it was coming this year. I'm not feeling it. I know everybody, it seems like everybody else is, and I'm happy for them. I've never been a Dragon Age guy, so that's probably the reason, let's be totally honest. But I'm not feeling it. Everything that I've seen, I'm just like, not for me. But you're interested, right?
Yeah, I think the gameplay looks really well. I think visually the game looks pretty good. I think there's some enemy design choices that I'm not like a super big fan of. The heads on the dragons look a little odd. But I think the gameplay, I've been watching some of like the early access info on this stuff, and there's like a lot of quality of life stuff to the game. Like when you're walking around, and if there's a NPC you want to talk to, their room will have lights that are on to let you know that there's actual dialogue that can be had there instead of you needing to like go and walk around and have conversations with everybody. So there's like a lot of there's a lot of quality of life stuff for those. There's open world puzzles, and if you don't have the character in your party, they'll still be able to do the open world puzzles for you, so you don't have to be switching people out. There's a lot of small stuff in the game that they seem to be doing well. On top of just the narrative seems somewhat interesting. The gameplay looks very cool, I think, so far. I like the mix in tacticals, the way they're doing it. You can team up moves with your teammates. All that stuff just seems to be done very well. Now, if it'll play super well, from the previews, people have loved it. There have been a few people who have gripes, but those gripes are more midline than they are that the game's bad. So I think at worst case, you'll have like a middle of the line game, which I think for BioWare is not a bad thing at this point, as sad as that is to say, because they've had sort of the quite a downfall, you could say.
Oh, absolutely. We don't. There's no way we look at BioWare the way we used to look at BioWare, which is a huge shame. Some of EA's doing though. Let's be honest. Like we can't act like it's all on them. I think the thing that blew me away the most was like, and in a negative way, I don't think it graphically looks that amazing. I've said that when we watched the trailer. I've watched the trailer since just in case it was a compression issue. It's not. I just don't think graphically it's not bad. I'm not sitting here saying it's bad because it's not bad. But I think like this is like we're talking about. This is BioWare. This is the next Dragon Age game. They should be trying to get people like me, right? People who have not been into Dragon Age before. As much as they want to cater to that new audience as well, I do think they want to try and get new players in who may not have checked out the series. And I don't know, it just didn't do it for me.
I don't know if that's the move you make if you're BioWare.
You think stick to your core?
I think stick to your core because they've moved so far away from their core.
Okay.
Yeah, like with this game, it's like, oh, we're going to just focus foundations and fundamentals and make like a really good BioWare game and put that out. And then maybe next game we make the Mass Effect game or whatever that is. Even Mass Effect, I'd imagine, isn't going to like... They're going to focus again on the core and the foundations as opposed to going for big showy games. And I do think that as far as like... appealing to that core, it seems they've done a pretty decent job. I do know that there are some hardcore Dragon Age fans that aren't a fan of it, but like that's the case with anything that's been around as long as Dragon Age has been around, right?
You're not going to get it right 100% of the time, are you?
Yep.
And that's it. Next up was one that leaked, unfortunately. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is back, remastered 1 and 2. A beloved game by many. I was never a Soul Reaver guy, even back in my PS2 era days and PS1 era days. Never a Soul Reaver guy, unfortunately. Probably should have been. I know Despawn, if he was on the podcast, he would be talking about it. He's a big fan.
Yeah.
He's excited for this remaster. It looks better. I don't think it looks that much better, if I'm honest. Even in the comparisons, like...
This is a remaster. This is like not even like, you could call it a remix. They up that, like, no, this is like a remaster. Yeah, I've never been a Legacy of Kain fan either, so this did absolutely nothing for me.
Well, it's wild. I remember back in the day I listened to Unlocked, right? And I know Ryan McCaffrey and Destin are both big fans, and they used to call it Legacy of Kain. I never even knew what they were talking about until this got announced. And I was like, oh, Soul Reaver.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
I always thought they were two different things.
Me too. I would generally, because again, it was just a game that wasn't on my radar enough that I didn't even realize this was the same game. Like, I always called it Soul Reaver, not Legacy of Kain. So, yeah, crazy. But yeah, excited for people who are excited for that. Next up, we had Alan Wake 2, The Lake House. This was the brand new DLC that is coming to Alan Wake 2. Probably, in my opinion, a very weak trailer for the pop that it got from me at the start, because obviously you can very much tell that it's Alan Wake from the jump. And then I don't think they sold it well. We got a little bit confused that it could have been Control 2. Obviously, they're in the bureau and things like that. It's all one shot down the corridor. I didn't love what they showed here for this expansion to sell it to people, if I'm honest. Again, if you had the deluxe edition, you already have it. So yeah, it's one of those ones. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it just didn't do a good job of selling what this expansion was going to be, the Lake House.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Alan Wake fan. This didn't really do much for me, but I wouldn't expect it to.
My issue.
I wonder if it's.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I wonder if it's just a case of like they don't want to show anything because showing anything of like that would mean anything to you would be a spoiler, and they don't want to ruin that experience. I
feel like it's going to be a loop.
The
way they shot the trailer is very much down one alleyway. You know, like the PT looping, everything changes every time you go around, all that. I have a really bad thing it's going to be that, and that doesn't interest me at all.
it's kind of hard to do well in video games. I feel like the whole loop experience.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, if you don't end it at the right time, which is usually after like the first or second loop, it ends up feeling very tedious.
Yeah.
So we'll see about.
I hope
that.
I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Again, I'm all speculation.
Let's put something to the vote fix. Me and the rest of the mics.
Me and everyone else. Okay, yo, guys, what do you guys think?
No. If it's a loop, I'm willing to give you an extra point on an extra point fix.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. The boys are gonna fight against it, but I'll take it.
They can't fight against it. They're not here. They don't have to know about it until after you've put into the score sheet.
Who do you think's got more chance of listening to this episode? Despawn or Matt?
Matt.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, definitely.
Matt's more busy, but Matt also is more likely to listen to it.
I guess he travels more for work, maybe.
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe. That was my only thinking. Next, we had the Dynasty Warriors Origins trailer. We've already seen this before, but they showed off more of this, which is fantastic for Dynasty Warriors fans. It looks prettier. It looks prettier, and it's Dynasty Warriors. Like, I don't know what more to say. I'm not a Dynasty Warriors fan. Never have been, never will be. Used to play them back on the PS2 just because I liked hitting things. But yeah, not for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm with you. The combat was fun when when people say like button mashers, my mind always like goes to Dynasty Warrior. This is like an actual like button masher where the point is for you to just decimate like legions of people,
hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah, that is the satisfying part of the game, and I've never been super interested in that aspect of it.
Yeah,
it does look pretty. It's something I think when we were doing it, I wished I was more of a fan of these because it feels like every game gets a Dynasty Warriors crossover as well. Yeah. I'm just not into it. There was the Zelda one where I was like, I like Zelda lots. This gameplay doesn't do anything for me, unfortunately. But yeah, I hope it does well. I think Dynasty Warriors is a legacy game at this point, right? You call it that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely a legacy game. Next up, we have Monster Hunter Wilds. We got to see. They have shown a lot of this goddamn game, Crash Capcom. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But yeah, we've seen a lot.
I'm good on it. No, I know. I wonder because none of us are super big Monster Hunter fans, right?
Yeah.
Like, not to say we didn't enjoy the last one. We haven't enjoyed a Monster Hunter in our life, but like none of us are like watching the details and the differences between the different monsters. Like, oh, it has this attack now. Oh, that they had a different animation for that attack.
Yeah.
Oh, you can cancel that move in this. Like, there's people who probably like go crazy over the footage that's shown with the stuff you can do.
Yeah.
We're just not that audience.
No, RX Gaming, they do like 10,000 different breakdown trailers of this and this monster, blah blah blah. Exactly like you said. It's just, we play the game, we jump on, we enjoy the story for whatever it is, and then we enjoy just teaming up with our friends, killing monsters, right? That's how we enjoy these games. They do have fishing, which was huge. You have to, any game that's got fishing gets an extra point. Well, gets an extra point, definitely. So we're very excited about that. Everything that they've shown of it looks fun. It looks good. It looks enjoyable. Yeah. I said this when we did the reaction. The story looks a lot more interesting than this one it did in Worlds for me, which is huge because the world story is the thing that really let it down for me. I'm really hoping, like the same thing that stopped me from playing Final Fantasy for years, where I was like, I'm so confused, I don't know this world. I'm hoping this is gonna Wilds is gonna be the game for me that gets me into the Monster Hunter world the way that Final Fantasy 15 did for me. Don't know if that will be the case, but I do like what we've seen so far. Just give me a good bad guy and let the story progress in a very natural and cool way. That's the one thing I didn't love about World either. It's designed for a Monster Hunter audience. Obviously, I totally understand that, and it did fantastic. I'm just hoping they've learned from some of the issues, the online, especially the online co-op. That was awful to do in World.
Which apparently is fixed. I don't know if it was one of the Monster Hunter Worlds DLCs or Rise or one of those games where the co-op issue is fixed, where you don't have to solo kill it once. Apparently, I don't know how accurate that is. I've been told that. I don't play the game, so I haven't witnessed it firsthand. But hopefully that is the case. And because that is, I think, one of the biggest drawbacks to wanting to get into that game, especially if you join late and your friend's like, oh, come play with us. It's like, oh, I have to go and solo hunt all these monsters before I can co-op play. It's just tedious and draining, to be honest.
Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. But yeah, looking forward to that one as well. And then there's the one that I cannot announce, which I'm sure you're going to announce for me, Crash.
Fantasian Neo Dimension.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to risk that one, Crash. No chance.
That's somewhere in the middle of the list. I was looking below Monster Hunter Wild. I was freaking out a little bit. I don't have anything on my list.
No. Yeah, not for me. This is a you game, bro. You're a weeb. You like this type of game.
Is this supposed to be a me game?
I would have said this was a you game.
Yeah, I like JRPGs. I like turn-based games. This doesn't do anything for me. Visually, it looks kind of bland and boring, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, it's got that throwback. It very much feels like the throwback of like a Final Fantasy 1 to 6. Art style. I don't think it graphically looks amazing either. I think it has. I
think it has an old school Final Fantasy director at the lead of it as well. I could see people like really loving this. I do think this is for people who are a fan of like older JRPGs and stuff like that. And I think it definitely fits that market.
Very much. The people who complain about like, oh, Final Fantasy's moved away from its core and it's like this game exists for those people. Like, you want nostalgia, you want the old school turn-based systems and things like that. Perfect. That's what this game is. But good to see it come to Xbox. This could definitely be one of those games that just misses Xbox entirely. So.
Yeah.
And then, so that's everything that was shown at the PlayStation State of Play that was in regard to Xbox. I guess we can talk about Ghosts of Yotai here as well, Crash, which was the big ending of PlayStation Showcase. Excited?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. I think Ghost of Tsushima was a little bit on its initial release. I do think it got a lot more love on the PC release. I think on its initial release, there was a little bit of underrating of the game and how strong the franchise would be.
You think so?
You disagree? I think so, yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I don't think so. Because I remember I got it, PlayStation sent it to me when I played it. I remember streaming it, and I remember not I didn't hate it, but I remember not being as high on it as others. And everyone being like, "This game's amazing." So I'm interested that you say that.
The reason I say that is because I think it ended up getting like an 8 on Metacritic or something along those lines, which I think is a crime for that game.
Metacritic sitting at 83.
Yeah, I think that's a crime rating for that game.
Really?
I think high 80s, the lowest it could be, yeah. I don't think there's a lot of bad stuff in that game. I think there's stuff that you could not like, but I don't think a Metacritic score should be based off that necessarily. I think everything in that game's quality. I think narrative's quality. I think gameplay's quality. The stealth is quality. Everything the game does well for the most part. So I do think an 83 is just a little bit low, is more so where I come in on that.
Okay. I mean, so Ghost of Yotai, obviously you've seen the craziness that's going on the internet right now. Crash, how you feeling about playing as a female character?
Go woke, go broke. Is that what they say?
I think that's what the kids are saying nowadays, Crash. I think that's what the kids are saying.
Dude. Look, I have no issues.
I'm so sick of Asmongold. I'm out here saying it. I'm so look. Let's get one thing very, 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 very clear. The man is a genius when it comes to clip farming. Genius. Yep. He knows his audience. He knows how to rile them up. He knows what to say and how to say it to drive views, clicks, and engagement. And if that's his honest opinion, sure. But I saw his big argument was how dare they play as a woman in that time age. And then there's literally, again, most of my news comes from TikTok nowadays. And there was literally a guy on TikTok being like, you mean like this and this and this? Like just throwing up iconic women of that time period who were warriors and things like that. I don't get it. When was playing as a female character a bad thing? We play games for escapism. I don't play games to put myself in the game every goddamn time. Yes, I do that in NBA. I do that in FIFA. I do that in sometimes my RPGs. But a story is being told here. just enjoy the story.
Yeah, it's basically like video game fear mongering. If we're gonna be honest, I think it's a few like select people that sort of notice that if they said like, oh, this is why games are X, Y, and Z, and sort of put certain people as like sort of the quote unquote lesser people, like, oh, they're I don't know how to say this. They're mistreating you in the game, in the gaming sphere, right? You're not being represented, et cetera, et cetera. It makes people go up in arms like, I want to be represented, even though if you just literally look away from this one game and look to like the rest of gaming, it's like your face is plastered everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd seen the outcry about it. I thought the game looked fantastic, by the way. Looking forward to playing it. I feel like they showed just enough to keep me wanting to see a little bit more as well, which is always nice when it comes to a trailer. But yeah, it's not 2, which I was surprised by. Not 2.
Yeah.
So a spin-off sequel. Yeah.
I think it's being considered like a sequel.
Yeah, it's a sequel, but it's just not a number. Just surprised to not see a 2.
It's not a number sequel.
You know? Just not.
Yeah, I wonder how that'll translate, because like obviously like gaming people are gonna know that it is a sequel, right? They're gonna know it's a continuation of Ghost of Tsushima. I wonder if people who were fans of the original but aren't super in the loop with gaming are gonna go into like the PlayStation Store or whatever and see that and even assume that it's the same thing.
Can I be honest? The biggest surprise for me is it's called Ghost of
Yote.
I thought it would be Ghost of Tsushima Yote. But that's just me being stupid. I understand that. I understand that's me being stupid, but...
it's the same thing with Shadow of Mordor. Like, Shadow of Mordor was such a good title, and they went Shadow of War, and it makes sense because it's Middle-earth Shadows of Mordor. So I think it's very much a similar case to that, where it's like, it might have not made sense for them to do it that way. I would have liked it if it was Shadow of War 2 instead of that. So I could see the case being for somebody having that same sort of feeling with this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But all right, let's move into Fix This Sack. No, let's move into What's in Your Box. We're just ending the show now, mate. What have you been playing, Crash? You played anything new?
I played the Metaphor Refantasio. They put out the prologue demo. I've not beaten it. I'm like 5 or 6 hours into the demo. It's a lengthy demo that'll give you like, if you guys are interested in the game and you guys are kind of like in the middle ground, it is a lengthy demo that'll give you like a very, very good understanding of the game, and you'll know whether you like it, I think, by the end. I love what I've played so far. I think they've adjusted some of the turn-based mechanics where you essentially have a full turn per every character you have. If you hit an enemy's weakness, you only use up half a turn. So you would then still have technically 3 moves you could do if you hit a weakness. And if you hit 3 weaknesses, you would have 3 extra moves, and you can go 6 times in 1 turn. You could also pass your turn, so you only use half of. There's like a lot of like strategic stuff you can do in the game that I think is very, very cool. I think the archetype system, which is basically just the class system in the game, is done pretty well so far. It's based off your social interactions with characters. So if you've played Persona, you have your bonds. It's based off those bond levels, what you have unlocked and stuff like that. I've really, I think the biggest gripe I've had with the game going into it that has sort of held me off has been the visuals. I think the art style is very
Persona,
very
if you know what Persona is, it's Persona.
Yes. No, I get what you're saying. There's just like the way they color things in and just the visuals in general. Outside of it being like a Persona style visual, it's more so the stylization of it than anything. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm
I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying.
But going into the game, and it's like they're very big on fantasy and telling a story, and it feels kind of like you're playing in a painting to a degree to live into like that fantasy world, which so I think they do it really well to the point where like the visuals don't bother me anymore, which is very, very good. I'm glad for that. So I'm 100% super hyped for this game.
So yeah, this is, so for people who don't know, obviously this is Atlus's new game. This is their not Persona title. To be honest with you, is the best way to explain it to people who don't remember what this game is.
Yeah.
I said after because they showed this at the Xbox showcase, and I remember saying to chat at the time, like, I really want to play this and just know how long it's going to be to beat. And the fact that they've given away a 6-hour demo is fantastic, by the way. Like, that's enough.
That's the demo. It's the prologue.
Just to give you the prologue. That's the prologue.
Story.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. That's yeah. I want to play this. I'm very scared about playing this though, just because of the sheer amount of time I know it's going to take to beat. But I played Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. And then I bought Persona 5 a few times and then just never got around to playing it. Do you think this is the one I should try?
Ooh,
I'll know if I just play the demo, but do you think this is the one for me or not?
I would assume that you'd be better off playing an actual Persona, because it's very, very big on the fantasy element. And I know you're not always the biggest person on fantasy element. I think if the narrative gets you, and they do seem to be telling a very interesting narrative, I think it could pull you in. I just think that there's a lot to get over in the fantasy element for you.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm interested to see your full thoughts. It's not out yet, right? When's it come out?
The 11th.
Oh, soon. Very, very soon. Yeah. Me, I've been playing EAFC 25. I bought the Ultimate Edition to play it 3 days early, play it early last week. God, what do I say? Honestly,
I've heard not great things about
this. Might be the worst. You know, I'm very much a defender of sports titles usually. NBA, EAFC/FIFA, Madden. You know, I play them all usually, and I'm very much a defender of no, there is new stuff here. No, there is improvements. No, there is changes. EAFC is a mess. I don't know what to say to people. It's a mess. It's a mess of a video game. Me and Haley started a career mode yesterday. The goalkeeper made a save, so the ball went out for a corner. They gave a goal kick.
Interesting.
The referee is calling full time on games when you're through on goal, which obviously the referee, again, for people who know football, will understand, like, you don't do that, you play advantage. Nope, full time done. Like, there are so many issues with this game that I have to say to people, do not buy it. It feels like, again, I'm sure there are changes, I'm sure there are improvements. I didn't play enough of FC24 to really be able to say what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. This does feel like the most copy and paste football game I have ever played. Ever.
That's... You think this, for whatever ends up happening with the FIFA title, you think this ends up creating an opening?
Well, the rumor is going around that 2K have got the FIFA license.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if this is gonna be an opening or anything like that. What I do know is even FIFA content creators are already kind of over this game. It feels like. They made some decent changes in the clubs mode, which is what we've asked for years, which is awesome. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet, but I will. For people wondering, it's going to be sitting at a 77 on Metacritic. So take of that of what you will. Yeah, man, I am shocked. I am shocked at how bad it is.
Okay. Do you think... Where do you think they go from here? You think it'll just continue being what it is?
Bro, Ultimate Team makes so much money that until they really, really, really mess up, they're just going to keep... Think about it from my perspective. They got £100 out of me.
Yeah. So even if you never... They got...
Even if I never played it again. Even if I don't play the game again, they got £100 out of me.
Okay.
You know, and I know I bought it. A bunch of my non-gaming friends are bought it and playing it, and you know they don't like it, but they're still going to buy it every single year. Like it's a really abusive relationship at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
where I keep buying it every single year. A little bit like Football Manager as well. Like same for me, right? I've had every Football Manager since 06. Whether or not the game come out and got a 0 review, I'm probably still going to buy it just so I have it in my Steam. Just because I'm just like, oh, I have to have it. So yeah, not good. Don't buy it. If you're not a football fan, don't buy it. If you're not, yeah, just don't buy it. I generally, that's what I have to say on this. Do not buy it. Do not buy it. So that's my opinion. Until there's a patch and things are fixed, which EA are not known for patching and fixing things, by the way, when it comes to like career.
Really?
I play career mode, yeah. Mainly I play career mode. It's just like my sit back, relax. Career mode on FC24 was never fixed. Like, never. It never got fixed. So, I wouldn't expect...
Well,
I would expect AI to get fixed. I expect the refereeing to get fixed, things like that. But, like, if you have a problem with, like, career mode and the way they've done things, they have changed a few things in career mode. Training, and I do like the tactics system they've changed this year, making it a little bit more lifelike in terms of like the way players play and stuff like that. In transition, out of transition, again, I'm going on about things that people don't care about. Those are cool, but the game itself, I cannot sit here on this podcast and tell you that you should buy it. Absolutely not. No way. No way.
Okay.
And then next up, I finally started Space Marine 2. Yeah, Planet Solo, which I don't think is the best way to play this game. I will say that. It definitely feels like a co-op experience. Very much takes inspiration from Gears of War. I'm
gonna ask how.
Other than the cover bait, I mean, like again, let me preface this by saying I'm not a Space Marine guy. I'm not a Warhammer guy. So those worlds, I'm not. Maybe Gears of War took inspiration from Space Marine, but now I'm playing this. That could be the case.
I was gonna say I don't know how old the IP of Space Marine.
Oh, like, probably older than Gears.
Chainsaw sword and stuff like that.
Yeah. No. So it's not. I don't mean the chainsaw. The chainsaw thing isn't the thing for it. That's not what. I just mean it's and things like that. So maybe it's Gears of War took inspiration from Space Marine, but my touchstone for like these type of worlds are very much Gears of War. So that's where that comes from. War. Yeah. It's very much a 360 type game.
Yes.
And from what you take of that is, if you enjoy 360 games, you're going to love this game.
Yeah.
You know, and
I don't think the 360 statement's a knock to the game, by the way. I think it's like a 360 game in the best of ways.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. I don't love... how do I say that? I haven't tried the other mode. There's a PvE mode, right? And the story kind of takes you into that mode of like, hey, these characters are going off and doing this thing. You should check that out. Which, in a roundabout way, I like, because I enjoy the fact that they're like, we have this mode, you should check it out, and it has story implications. But in another way, as someone who likes to I'm playing campaign mode, then I move on to the next mode, it kind of threw me off a little bit. Because then I was sat there for a paralyzing second of like, so do I do that or do I carry on with the campaign?
Why would you give me choices?
Yeah. It very much was like they should have just forced me to do that mode. At least for the first mission, at least in the first mission, to like, hey, that's what's going on, and then let me carry on with the campaign. But yeah, I'm about 2.5 hours in. Campaign's about 6 hours long, from what I've been told. I like it. I don't love it. But in the same breath, I don't think I'm not the audience against. Like, I'm playing... this year's been a lot of me playing franchises. Star Wars, Space Marine. You know, these franchises of games where, like, I'm not their core audience, but I'm coming in and checking them out. And sometimes they hit and I finish the game like Star Wars. Or sometimes they don't hit and I'm waiting for friends to play Space Marine with. Because I do think that game with people would be a lot more fun.
Yeah. It's the only way I've played the game other than like you have the intro where you're forced to play single player.
Yeah.
I've only played it co-op and it is a lot of fun in co-op.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like ammo management and stuff like that that I think ends up feeling really cool that I don't know how I'd enjoy it if I played it solo. Thinking about some of the experiences that you have in that game, I don't know if I like think about it. I'm like, that'd make a good solo experience. My mind's more so I'm like, I'd probably hate that section if I played it solo.
It's hard. I will say that. Yeah. The game is very challenging, even on like normal difficulty. I really do like the parry system in this game, which I didn't expect to like. Because I'm not a parry guy, as most people know. But it's so intuitive.
So forgiving.
It's so intuitive. It very much is, like you said, very forgiving. It works. I like the executions, and you get a little bit of health back for that, and things of those natures. Like I say, there's a lot of things that as soon as you play this game, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. This feels familiar. That's the biggest compliment I can give it. You jump in, it feels very familiar. Very much a case of like, you have to have a pistol and the AR. You can't just carry 2 ARs and just little things like that. But I've just got to the point where I can go into the arsenal where you get to pick your weapons.
Okay.
So I picked my new weapon, tried that out, and was like, oh, this feels different to all the other weapons, which is nice. Each gun feels very unique and very different. Different play styles, I would say, for different people, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, enjoying it. Like I say, haven't finished it yet. I will finish it at some point in time before the end of the year, because I do think it will make my top 10 list if I play it with people. If I don't, I probably think it will still make my top 10 list, but probably a lot lower. So I'd be interested to play it with like you and D-Spawn at some point.
I was gonna say my Xbox and me co-op stream.
Yeah, we should do it. We should definitely do it, because we could beat it probably from where I'm at and probably where you're. You haven't beat it yet, right?
I haven't beat it, no.
Yeah, probably from where each of us are at, we could probably beat it in one stream.
We could probably beat it from the beginning to the end in one stream.
We could, but your attention span has disappeared, my friend. Getting you to stay, on a stream for 6 hours is impossible.
I struggle to play games for 6 hours straight now.
No, absolutely. It's definitely, but email it, myxboxandmepodcast@gmail.com, or ask us, or answer this question in the Discord if not, right? How long are your average gaming sessions now? These are the information I need from you if you're going to answer this. I need your age, I need to know if you have kids, and I need to know your average gaming session. I'm talking about you sit down and play a game, what is your typical length? I'd love to know that. Because again, my job as a streamer, right, is 8 hours. And that is slowly getting harder and harder and harder as I've got older and older and older. But back in the day, we were knocking out 12, 14-hour streams easy. There was no issue. I
accidentally stream like 12 or 14 hours.
Exactly.
Like, oh, shit.
You couldn't do it now.
No, absolutely not. Now, by the time it gets to like 45 minutes, I'm like, has an hour passed yet?
My question is, do you think it is what we would call TikTok brain has got to us? Like our attention spans have gotten worse, or just the way you enjoy games has changed?
Probably a little bit of both, to be honest. I think I probably don't not that I don't value gaming, but I value stuff as much as gaming, right? I value like living life, a little bit more than just gaming and being a degenerate the way I used to be, right? But also I do think TikTok brain of like, I need something to be happening right now for me to be engaged in this game. Otherwise, like I'm going to zone out and I'll put on a podcast. I've also just found it more difficult to just have something in the background while I game and sort of multitask, which I used to be able to do all the time. It's just kind of a struggle sometimes where my mind's like, I'm either focusing on this or I'm focusing on that, or I'm focusing on nothing.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of like the sort of, I guess, cheat codes you could call it that would like extend the gaming session have sort of become not unavailable, but they aren't as effective as they used to be. Which maybe that's just all TikTok brain rot.
Brain rot. Oh god, don't start me on that. Let's get into this week's dashboard. We've got a few news pieces to talk about. We will be talking now about Xbox's Tokyo Game Show. If you didn't see it, I would say if you're in the Western regions, you didn't miss much. Overall, I don't know if did you watch it in the end, Crash? I know we were meant to stream it, but you watched it, yeah?
Yeah.
My overall thoughts are they did what they were expected to do. Like, they spoke to a specific audience about games that they knew they would be interested in on their platform. From a more broad spectrum, I don't think that it did a great job of showing anything new enough that got people excited. But I think for the region they were speaking to, I think they did a decent job. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you're looking at this, and I've seen some people echo the sentiment that like the showcase was bad because it's very Japanese focused. I'm like, it's the Tokyo Game Show, It's
literally
they hit the market that they were aiming for, and if they made a game that was for us, or not us, but like regions outside of that marketplace, they would have had a bad showcase even if we all loved it. It would have been not the showcase that they needed for that market to sort of try and muster up more fans. And I think they showed a lot of stuff that really hits in that market as well. So I do think they had actually like a good showcase. I think for me personally, it was a little dull and I wasn't super into everything that they showed.
Yeah.
But I think irrelevant of that, it was still a good showcase for what they needed to do.
So yeah, I'm not going to go through the entire showcase. You can go check that out on Xbox Wire or Windows Central. They've got articles up where you can see every single trailer. So we'll talk about a few that were interesting to me. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, or Delta, in which they're calling it at the moment, was a fantastic showing. Once again, like, from the moment this trailer come on, which it opened the show, by the way, I was so happy and so excited to see it. It looks fantastic. Everything about it looks amazing. Again, it's one of the few Metal Gear games that I haven't beaten as well. Played back on the PS2, but never beat. So I'm super happy I'm going to get to experience it here. But probably my favorite game of this entire show, if I'm being honest.
I think off of what was shown, I think I'd agree with you. But yeah, I've never played Snake Eater.
You've never played Snake Eater?
Yeah, I've never played Snake Eater. I have I have it on the PS2, I believe. I got it at some point at like GameStop for like mad cheap. I just never played it. It was just like Snake Eater 2 in the original case for like $5 or something like that. I'm like, I can't not buy that, right? But yeah, I've never played it. I am looking forward to experiencing it. With the way people talk about it constantly, it's always up there for people's favorite Metal Gear game. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I thought it was a really good trailer. I 100% agree with you. I think they're showing it off in all the right ways so far to get people interested, because people were very iffy on Konami for a while, and people seem to be a little over that with the way this game has been being shown.
Once again, I'm heartbroken that they started with 3. I think that's my big issue, right? Like, I think a Metal Gear Solid remake, like a Resident Evil 2 remake, would have been it would have hit so different. And then the same for 2 and then 3. I understand why they didn't do it that way, because I feel like they need the big hitter straight away, and that's why they've done this. But I am interested.
Do you think they go back to 1 and 2 if this does well?
I think they go back to 2.
Okay. So you don't think they do 1 ever?
I don't
or
know.
Not right now.
I don't know.
Do you think they ever do 4?
Maybe?
I wonder how, because 4 was made on the PS3.
Yeah.
I wonder how hard it would be to like sort of bring any of that forward for a remake. Which I guess you wouldn't need to,
right? You're remaking everything. I was going to say, you remake everything anyway. Maybe do they remake 2? Bro, I'd wet myself if they remade 2, because 2's one. You got to remember, 2's up there as like one of my top 5 games of all time.
Yeah,
I have such a special relationship with that game. Again, not a game that I go back and play like a Resident Evil, where I go back and play it every year non-stop. No, but my relationship with 2. I have so many touchstones of like, okay, my friend's coming over and pan me biscuits to watch me play Metal Gear Solid 2. Going to my granddad's house, and my aunt's boyfriend had a PS2 and playing it there and helping him get past one of the bosses. Like, just there's so many touchstones I can go to in my brain. And don't laugh about my biscuit story. That's
my favorite story you've ever told me about.
Yeah,
it's an amazing story.
There's no, bro. I was always going to be fat, wasn't I? Let's be honest. But yeah, I Delta looked great showing. Very much looking forward to jumping on day 1 for that one. Couple other things that are worth talking about, I guess. Overwatch 2 got a My Hero Academia crossover. For people that care about that, does that do anything for you, Krish?
No, those skins look hideous, and Overwatch continues to have some of the worst crossover skins I've ever seen in a game. I just want to point that out there. Yeah,
I wasn't impressed. Again, it's hard with one of these showcases because I don't quite know what's going on half the time, because again, not my world. Yeah. So chat were quick to tell me My Hero. I was like, oh, okay, yay. I don't know, you know, it's one of those ones. I don't know. But yeah, we got a new Bleach game. Bleach Rebirth of Souls.
Yeah. That's been announced for a while.
Oh, okay.
It's an arena fighter.
That's why I mentioned it,
before. I'm not like, I'd love to love this game. I don't think I will. But it looks solid enough for people who are big Bleach fans. I don't think Bleach has gotten a game that's not a mobile game in a very long time. So at least they're being fed something, right?
Yeah, true. Very true. Next one was a game we've already seen before, like you said before, Slitterhead. This was the one where you can jump into different NPC bodies, sort of that type of like everyone's playable type game. The more I see of this, the more I don't like it, if I'm honest. I thought the first trailer was really good. The more I've seen of this, I'm like, yeah, probably not a me game. Very action focused, which is cool. I do like action games, but I'm not sure on this one. I'm really not. It gives me Resident Evil 6 vibes.
Interesting.
You gotta think Japan. It's the same sort of aesthetic again. It just the whole art style, the whole color palette as well. Obviously, it's nothing like Resident Evil 6, but I'm just saying, like, it reminds me of Leon's campaign of Resident Evil 6, and I was like, it just turns me off. Turns me off altogether.
That's why you dislike the game.
Probably. Did you like anything else on here, Krishna, that I've missed other than Final Fantasy, which we'll talk about last? Anything else on here that you think was worth mentioning that I've just glanced over?
Age of Mythology Retold, Immortal Pillars. You can talk about that one. Can I be honest? Most hype. That's pretty hype up there for me.
You know that game's out, right?
The DLC specifically, the Immortal Pillars. Okay. So not the Age of Mythology Retold. I haven't jumped in because I'm like, I've played it. I don't really have the time to fit it in. I saw that and I was like, when that comes out, I'm going to play it. If it's DLC, I'm going to buy it and play it. I think it looked cool. Okay. I think it's new stuff for Age of Mythology. Little kid me doesn't remember that, so I'm pretty sure it's new stuff. But little kid me could have just been stupid. That's not out of the question. Yeah. I think that looked cool. Other than that,
I forgot one. All You Need Is Help. I did enjoy the trailer for All You Need Is Help, which was the
interesting. The shape one.
The shape one, the puzzle shape one. Look, I like those type of games. You know, I liked Play It Up. I liked what's the oh crap, what's it called? The one where you have to clean up. Unpacking. Oh. That was the one Unpacking, that's what I was thinking of. The Unpacking one. I like that. I like these type of games. So I liked this. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point. Cool. In Game Pass day one. So
yeah.
Always happy about that. Yeah, I think I'll probably sit down with Haley and play it. So make it happen. And then last but not least, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remaster has been announced on Game Pass. You excited? Again, as someone who's not, you gotta remember, first Final Fantasy I ever beat, 15, only really got into the series now, probably from 15, 16, 7 Remake, Rebirth. That's my Final Fantasy touchstone, right? The only game that looked interesting to me out of 1 through 6 was 6.
Yeah, I've never played any of them before 7. Like 7 was my entry point into Final Fantasy, so these games do next to nothing for me, if I'm going to be honest. I'm interested in jumping in. I think I agree with you, just 6. I don't think I would play that full catalog because most of that, the nostalgia isn't there for me. Yeah. And so it's like I'm just jumping into like, it's the same as me saying I'm jumping into, and this is not correct, but saying I'm jumping into the Suikoden remasters as well. It's like the same thing for me. Like conceptually, it's like I have no real touchstones with those franchises.
Again, we didn't mention Trials of Mana and Trials of Mana Legends, both on Game Pass as well. Same thing for me, where I'm like, I look at those games, I'm like, they look good, but I don't have that nostalgia for those games. Obviously, this is the first time Trials of Mana ever come into Xbox as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, just not. It wasn't a big showcase. Obviously, it wasn't aimed for me. I don't begrudge that. The last thing I'll say is how do they keep mentioning Fallout 76 in every goddamn showcase? How do they manage it? Maybe they have a really big audience, Asian audience for Fallout 76, because the adding of pets. I didn't realize that was going to be the big announcement here.
Yeah, I would have thought like a DLC or something bigger, and it was like it's just pets. And I'm like, oh, that's if you're really into the nitty gritty of that game and they add pets, I'm sure that's actually like a very cool feature to have. But somebody who doesn't play seeing them add pets, I'm like, cool, whatever, I guess.
Sounds good to you, me, bud. Sounds good to me. But yeah, that is what we got for All Things Tokyo Game Show. If you want to watch my reaction, you can check it out on the. I didn't upload it. It will be on the My Xbox and Me channel soon. I promise. I'll upload it because I have recorded it. Next up, we got a question that came in from Ubisoft. About Ubisoft, I should say. That says this: do Ubisoft suffer from the Xbox problem? What I mean by this is, for 2 generations now, it's been the cool thing to hate on Xbox. I feel like the last few years has been the cool thing to hate on Ubisoft. And where I'm going with this is, what do you think Ubisoft's future looks like, and how can they get out of the pit they're in? A couple of days ago, Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed until February. Game delays are common, but no game wants to move out of the holiday window to the post-holiday window when everyone has spent their money already. I think this delay is a consequence of larger internal issues, although of course I can only speculate. But it makes me sad to think people making such great games like Avatar, as I'm playing more, Star Wars, are not hitting the sales goals. I have opinions, but I've said enough. Would like to hear yours from Anubis. Krish, we'll start with you. Let's start with it overall. What are your opinions? This is what I want to know of you right now. What are your opinions right now with Ubisoft? You think Ubisoft, what are the first things that come to your head?
Okay games.
Okay games. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's like where my gut reaction is. Like, I think Ubisoft doesn't, for a while now, at least for me, hasn't made amazing games, but they don't make bad games either. They make just very like middle of the line good games. Some people will love them, some people will hate them for various reasons, but I don't think any game they've made in a while has been I would consider being bad, right? And I think that can be divisive in its own nature, especially with something like Ubisoft, where at one point in gaming, you could view them as a trendsetter and very much at the front of the lead, especially like the way we play open world games. We've talked about it before. Ubisoft is very much at the forefront of the way we consume those games. I don't think Ubisoft's really sort of been in that position of trend setting in the gaming industry for a while now. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, again, hard for me to talk on this, of course. I'm sure people can understand that. I work for Ubisoft in terms of in a streamer capacity. I'm a host and streamer for them. I play a plethora of all of their games when they come out, whether that be updates, whether that be brand new titles, whatever it may be. I don't get it. I've said, and again, everything I say, take with a pinch of salt. Again, I'm allowed to say whatever I want, but here you go. I don't get the Ubisoft hate. I agree with you in terms of Ubisoft make good to great games. They don't make 10 out of 10s yet. They haven't had a 10 out of 10 in a while. But for me, they make good to great games. When did that become an issue? Is what confuses me. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Ubisoft would love 10 out of 10s. I'm sure of it. I'm sure they're not going into making a game and not trying to make a 10 out of 10. But yeah, I don't get the hate, the way that the internet has been trolling as of lately. I do agree with you that they do feel like the cool thing to hate on all of a sudden. And not all of a sudden, you're probably right. It probably has been the last 2 years. I look down at their list of games that have come out, and again, they're games that speak to me. There's a reason I work with Ubisoft and stream their games, right? Because I like Ubisoft games. I have done from the very start of covering this industry, and that's probably never going to change. But yeah, I mean, they've not had a 10 out of 10 game in a while, but they did have a pretty good game that came out, Prince of Persia.
Yep.
I love that game. I think that's in my top. That's got to be. That's probably still potentially my game of the year.
Yeah, I think the problem with Prince of Persia. Ubisoft's become so, it's a AAA studio. That's not, that doesn't, you don't perceive that game as a AAA game. And I think that's where people not even giving that game a try. And I know people who would love that game and they still haven't played it because it's a Ubisoft title, which is unfair, but it is that's not why they go to Ubisoft.
No, yeah, I think,
and the reason they go to Ubisoft is those open world experiences. And the problem with Avatar and Star Wars is those games have their own fandoms. And if you don't 100% satisfy 100% of the fandom, you sort of have a problem, and it's impossible to satisfy 100% of the fandom. Even if you do everything right and everything canonically can fit in that universe, people are going to find reasons that it doesn't fit in the universe, and that'll be a problem with something like that. It's always the difficulty with making it a game based off a pre-existing IP.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Avatar. I said that last year. I enjoyed Avatar. Let's talk about this year games, right? You got Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Skull and Bones, X-Defiant, Prince of Persia, the Rogue Prince of Persia, Star Wars Outlaws. Those are the big ones that we'll talk about. And throughout the rest of the year, you got Just Dance. Yeah, that's about it, right? Ubisoft's got some good games. They were always going to take some flack for Skull and Bones, right? Like, unless that game came out and was going to be the best game ever, they were always going to take some flack on that. Again, from what I played of Skull and Bones, I enjoyed. Again, I enjoyed it way more than I was expecting to enjoy it, because I'm not a pirate guy, I'm not a ship combat guy, so they clearly did some things right there for me. But yeah, I'm trying to think about the question and to answer the question mainly here. Like, just opinions of Ubi for me is that they've made some changes now, which we're going to talk about, right? Star Wars Outlaws roadmap's just been released. We've got a Steam release coming. They've now gone forward to say, so for those who don't know, that's coming out now. October 24th will release on Steam, along with the Story Pack 1 and a bunch of quality of life fixes as well. There's some updates before that, October 3rd and October 24th as well. Star Wars Outlaws is getting some updates, but they've changed the way they're selling games now. They're getting rid of the season pass model, which I think is huge, and they're going to go back to day and date releases on Steam. Yep. Which I think are the two big game changers, to be honest, with the way we perceive Ubisoft as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's just Assassin's Creed Shadows, maybe you know more. They're also not doing the early access for it as well.
That's the whole season pass, early access, all of that stuff is gone.
Yeah, so it feels like one of the problems that Ubisoft's done is they've released like good games, but they've also released ways to like sort of micro what's the word I'm looking for?
Nickel and dime is what some people would say.
Nickel and dime people. Yeah. And so they're sort of walking some of that back, and I think that hopefully is a good sign to earn some of the player base's favor, where it's not sort of as negative. And also being on Steam is a big help, because a lot of people would shit talk these games. Anytime you have to open up an app, you don't want to play a game, and if you have a bug or some sort of negative experience with that game, it's only going to be worse, because you're like, I updated Ubisoft, it made me sign in, I had to reset my password because I haven't been on it. Anytime you can sort of like minimize that, it makes a better experience. Even it makes those negatives not as low. And it makes the positives and the neutral more enjoyable, because you didn't have to go through a hassle. So hopefully that sort of starts helping Ubisoft shift boat with do you know what
games. I think the big thing will be as well, right? Like, I feel like it's going to be a case of more people are going to talk. People are going to talk shit, right? But at least if the games are on Steam, they probably bought the game and then they're talking shit. Right now, I think it's a case of like people are just Star Wars Outlaws. Obviously, they've come out and said that it hasn't performed as well as they would have liked, and then people are just talking smack about it, but they haven't played it because it's on obviously Xbox, PlayStation, but the Ubisoft launcher, where I know firsthand from doing my live streams, the number one question I get for most things, X-Defiant and Star Wars, was when's it coming to Steam? When's it coming to Steam? That's what people want to know. So even the silent people who just want to enjoy a Star Wars game want to enjoy that game on Steam. And I'm very happy that they've done this, they've made this change. But yeah, there's that. There's obviously, we've spoken about Shadows, we spoke about the roadmap. There's some other stuff going on in offices at Ubisoft right now. This one was taken from IGN, from Wesley, talking about how Ubisoft France are calling for strikes over return to office order and pay dispute. I read this one earlier. The big conversation is that people have already set up their lives now for remote work, and now Ubisoft are expecting people to go back to office, and people are like, we're not willing to do that. Again, I find it hard to talk about UB again, just because of my relationship with them, and obviously working in tandem with them. If you're not, as a business, Crash, and I'm asking you this, I don't really have an opinion on it, but like, if you run a business, right, and you aren't making what we have called now fantastic or, trend-setting games, right, and they were known for that with Assassin's Creed, they were known for that with, a bunch of titles, Far Cry, early games, things like that, right? Do you blame them for wanting to get people back in the office when they're probably looking at it from a point of like, okay, everything needs a reset. Everything needs to everything needs a reset. Everything needs to go back to the beginning. We've changed the way we're going to charge for games. We're changing that. We're changing for the way we release games. We're putting it on more platforms. We've changed all these things about the game. Do you blame them for... I'm not saying it's right or wrong, by the way. I'm just asking. Yeah. Do you blame them for wanting to go, okay, we need to reset. Everyone needs to come back to the office?
Yeah, I don't think coming back to the office would fix the issues they have. Like, I think that's ultimately what it comes to. I think people work from home, they live happier lives, you live happier lives, you do better at your job. I don't think forcing people to come into the office is going to fix that. I think it could possibly be a downgrade, if not changed absolutely nothing. I think there are not management issues as in like business decisions, but creative decisions that sort of might need to be rehashed and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't, from my perspective, I don't think making people come in the office, especially when you're told like, hey, it's a remote job, you'll be working from home, to like, oh, you guys have to come in now. It's 5 days a week in the office. We'll see you Monday or whatever the case is. Yeah. I don't think that is reasonable, really, in my opinion. From outside looking in, of course, the conversation is going to be different. I'm sure they have their list of reasons why they're doing this. I'd be interested to see that list, which I'm sure we will never see that list.
No. It's probably a case of being able to monitor people, right? More. You can keep an eye on what work is actually being done more when everybody is in an office.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Like, whether or not you like it or not, it's just, that is the case. That is what it is. So, yeah, very interesting stuff going on at UB right now. Yeah, that's it. I hope we answered your question, Anubis. And yeah, sad. I guess we'll quickly touch on Shadows, I guess, before we go on. Sad that Shadows got delayed, but I'm happy about it. The one thing that upsets me about Shadows delayed is the way people are reacting to it. Because usually we sit there and champion delays and take the time you need and, yeah, polish the game and yada, yada, yada. Ubisoft hasn't been given that same... same pat on the back for delaying the game. It's you're scared of Ghost of Yotai. The game sucks.
Ghost
That's
of
why
Yotai's coming out next year. And the backlash to this game getting delayed came out of nowhere for me because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting like people to hate on it. None of that, and all of a sudden everybody. It's a horrible game. They need to refix the game. I think for a lot of people, they look at the delay and they're like, it's an Assassin's Creed game. Their mind goes to Unity and they're like, you can give that game another 3 months and it's not going to be like, it's not going to fix the issues with that game. Look, delays are good. Give the team the time they need to make the game that we want, especially because this is a setting that people have wanted for so long. The worst thing they could do is release the game still in November and have it underperform. And not like in terms of sales, but have it underperform in terms of what we expect from the game.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be like the worst case scenario.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Next piece of news, California signs a new law that will make digital game stores fess up about your lack of ownership of what you're buying. This was taken from Windows Central, as reported by The Verge. The governor, Gavin Newsom, has signed into a new law legislation that will focus digital stores to be honest about exactly what it is you're buying. Significantly, that you aren't buying the content, you don't own it, at least not unless a permanent offline enabled copy of said content is made available in that case. The new law won't apply. Crash, good thing, bad thing? How you feeling about this?
Good thing. I think this is, we've talked about it so many times. You don't own digital games. I think forcing companies to like sort of put that in the forefront maybe also helps the physical market, which I'm sure that there's like benefits economically to having more of a physical market everywhere around the world. So I think overall it's a very good thing to have that reminder of like, hey, you're buying this digitally. If the game ever goes away or they don't have licensing for music or something like that, the game will have to be delisted. We see it with like Forza all the time. Forza gets delisted because of cars. They don't have the rights to car sounds, whatever the case is. This just seems like a sort of a common thing that feels like it should have been at the forefront of like when you buy a game digitally for a while now.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you should do the right thing and tell people what they're actually paying for, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? Yeah, I haven't really got anything else to add. I agree with you, to be honest. So, and last story this week, this comes from Phil Spencer himself. We've seen the largest number of Xbox console players in the region to date. Speaking about the growth in the Asian region. Sharing an update, Xbox lead Phil Spencer noted, quote, "This year more people are playing with Xbox across all devices in Asia than ever before. We've seen the largest number of Xbox console players in the region to date." Crash, I saw the fanboy wars going crazy with this one on Twitter. Did you see this?
I didn't see
yeah, so the fanboys are going crazy with this one because of Phil's wording. And Phil's a very, very smart man. And Phil spoke very smartly when he said this. People are now comparing this to Japan.
Yeah, it's not Japan.
I think
Asia as a whole.
I think the fanboys only think that Asia is Japan. They forgot that Japan is the smallest region in Asia.
Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting, very funny to see a lot of people going back and forth on Twitter right now about this. But yeah, obviously great to see Xbox getting more of a foothold in the Asian regions. That's why we see shows like these Tokyo Game shows and things like that. We see more deals being done. Phil has put a lot of work, whether or not you agree with some of the decisions being made. He's put a lot of work in the Asian regions since he became head of Xbox, and it seems to be paying off.
Yep. Now just more localization to some of those regions.
I think that's what the big conversation was as well. I think that was at the showcase. There was a lot of that though. A lot of them talking about localizations.
Well, Japanese localization specifically. I know for like Korean Xbox fans, it's been a very big complaint for them for a very long time that a lot of Xbox games don't get localized over there. So just seeing more localization options in general, which there's a cost to localizing a game, I'm sure. So you have to have enough business going through a place to actually warrant it. But
pretty sure Xbox can afford it.
Yeah, but you'd also say that they could afford to keep some of the people that they let go of. So
very true. Very, 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 very true. All right. Remember, you can email in myxboxandmepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on the Discord. Hit us up on Twitter with your questions. #MXAMPodcast. This first one in Fix a Stack is from Origin Cookie Man. It says, approximately a year ago in episode 428 of My Xbox and Me podcast, what did Kresh say he would call MC Fixer?
Do you recall? Did you go and watch it?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh, just saying.
Did you?
Yeah, I went back and watched it, so I was curious.
I have no clue. A Dumbo, a dickhead, I don't know, something like that. What did you call me, Crash?
A boss. That was specifically on us getting paid.
Oh,
you know what? Despawn was in that, so Despawn's been here for like a year.
There you go. Approximately.
He's been here for over a year.
Approximately.
Yeah.
You call me a boss?
Yeah.
What?
But I have to get a paycheck first.
You can be paid whenever you want, Crash.
Okay, I take my payment in gold bars, authentic gold bars.
I don't think this podcast has generated enough revenue to own a single piece of gold.
And you're not getting called boss just yet, unfortunately.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I understand. This next question comes from Angor, friend of the show, and says, as a PC gamer, I personally would never understand why people think the Series S is the cause of Xbox issues. I understand it takes time to optimize games, for a wide range of specs, but for years PC devs have been doing it with success. Do you believe that this is an actual issue with the console, or just not wanting to put the money and time into optimizing games for the S, or is it just a scapegoat for the internet to hate on Xbox?
It's valid. As somebody who used to play, I've talked about it before, I used to play with a 960 graphics card. They don't optimize for the low end of what the minimum spec requirement is, like the lowest you could play with. They do not optimize for it. There's times where you can meet all those requirements and the game just won't work, and they will never fix it for you. That can't be the case with the Series S. It gets more optimization than low-end PCs do, and it still underperforms a lot of times. It causes delays for games, especially as far as Xbox fans go. There's issues with the S. There's also benefits to being able to get more consoles to people because there's cheaper options and all that stuff. There's positives to the S as well. It's a very more of a nuanced conversation than people would like it to be, but like there are definitely drawbacks in terms of like optimization as far as the S is concerned from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean Xbox fans have the right to be upset if you own a Series X, right? Not if you're. I think that's the conversation more for me. Like, if you're a PC player and you're upset, who cares if stuff gets delayed or whatever. But like, if you're a console gamer and you own a Series X, I think you're legitimate reasons to be upset. I think it's the parity law is the biggest issue, right? The parity rule for Xbox, where like things shouldn't have to be parity across everything. And I think if you could have dropped, I think Baldur's Gate's the biggest thing there, right? When it benefits them, they then decide to change things. Yep. And I think that's the issue. They should have just had, but again, I guess the issue is, like you've noted, people will just not spend the time and the money to optimize it then on Series S, which then makes that console pretty much oblivious. Especially at this time of year, this time in this life cycle and things like that. People will just be like, it's underpowered, we can't do it.
Yeah, Xbox is just in a tough position with that. It's sort of like you have to force the hands of certain developers because it's very easy to just not develop for that console if you don't want to, or put very little work into it. It was the big issue with Windows phones for anybody who owned a Windows phone or got into Windows Phone. I had a Windows phone once. I loved it. It was fantastic. You want to know the worst thing about Windows phones? It didn't even have like an official Twitter app at that time. Like, it didn't have official apps for things. And so it just was a hassle because nobody was developing for it. And I'd imagine it's not a one-to-one comparison, but something similar would happen to Series S, where you'd have certain games skip out or certain games just miss core features because like, oh, we don't want to fix that or make it fit or whatever the case is, right?
But you own a Windows phone, you deserve any amount of bullying you've ever got in your life, just so you're aware.
That's fucked up. Just visually, I'm just going to say this real quick. Windows phones have been the coolest phones I've ever had. It had like a matte blue finish on the outside. It was dope phone.
Okay, nerd. Next up, in regards to Tokyo Game Show, do you think Xbox's showcase does enough to entice the Japanese market, or do you think they could do more to improve their showcases from top lift? I don't really know what else they could do other than like bring in. I do think the one thing I will say is I do think it lacks first party. Right? Like, that's something that you can look at that showcase itself. It lacks a big announcement. Like, Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster 1 through 6 isn't the big announcement.
I think I'm gonna disagree here because I think the problem with them getting into the Xbox, like the Japanese marketplace, isn't exclusives. It is having games that they know that are available on other platforms for them to like. I think that's the biggest. Once you get past that barrier and they show like, hey, we're gonna have parity for all these games, and Final Fantasy games are gonna be coming regularly. All these Japanese games are gonna be coming regularly. Then is like, and now this is why you should own Xbox on top of that, because you're not gonna be missing out on any of these experiences, and you're gonna get this. And I don't think Xbox is at a point like that with Japan just yet. And I also don't think they have a game that's really ready to show for Japan, where like this is a game that'll hit in this market. So I think they
Indiana Jones, bro.
They could have. Yeah. They did show Indiana
they showed
Jones.
Indiana Jones. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That was their go-to for this one. I think they could do more? Yes, they could always do more. Every company can do more. Every person in the world can do more. But you have to be smart with what you're doing. I think what they're doing is enough to keep growing those regions. That region, sorry. And I think that's enough right now. You know, I think the problem is people are expecting like a Lost Odyssey, a Blue Dragon, like these sort of things. Like, but that's not what Xbox has right now. That isn't the Xbox that exists anymore. So you can't expect that yet, that either. So yeah, when they've got a game that I think is going to work, I think Fable might do well. In the Asian regions, but we'll see. We'll see. Last question this week, Chris, before we get the hell out of here. This comes from Eldozo and says, are sales expectations for games too high? We seem to be in a place at the moment where all we hear is X game has not met particular targets. Why do you think that is, and what is your opinion on how we get out of it? We'll never get out of it, is my opinion, because game companies and just companies in general are greedy. Like, you never...
Once you get into this territory, it's impossible. Like, you can look at any sort of industry, especially creative industry, and it's like... music industry, there's artists who put out music, their music starts off getting a certain number, and once that number starts to dip, the label or whatever will view you like, you're not worth it, we're gonna just stop, we're gonna shelf you, we're gonna own you, but we're not gonna let you put out anything. That happens regularly, and you'll start seeing video game variants of that, of like studios being forced to do certain things, and then when it underperforms and it is sort of this management issue, the workers are going to be like, oh, we've been seeing mass firings. I think that would be like somewhat of a similar equivalent. IPs will be getting shelved because it doesn't do well enough for the company that owns the IP to sort of do anything with it.
Yeah. Are sales expectations too high? No, I don't think they are too high. I think the problem is they're going off of data that exists, right? Like, you got to remember, we're coming out. I know it seems like it was forever ago, but COVID weren't that long ago. So we saw these big peaks of everyone buying everything, everyone playing everything, and then you've got analysts and data analysis and people like that who are then going off of that data being like, well, this game should have sold X when we're no longer in that world. Like, running a business is hard, right? Like, they have internal expectations of how things should do. And then when they do that, things are... I think Assassin's Creed will be the big telling point for a lot of games, right? Like, they know how much Star Wars has sold. They know how much Skull and Bones did. They're not just Ubisoft either. Like, there's plenty of other game companies out there that are missing Final Fantasy, right? Final Fantasy 7 and 6, Rebirth and 16, both under-delivered. But that released on one system. So their argument for that is now, oh, we're going to release on everything day and date. And we're not going to make that same mistake. And it's like, I don't think that's still going to be the only issue here. Like, it's just people's expectations are just too high. The cost of making games is too much. The problem is, and people are not going to like it when I say this, game costs are going to go up. I generally do think GTA 6 is going to cost £100. The base model. I think they're going to come out and be like, £100, $100.
They could do it. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be them. And then it'll set a
horrible precedent.
A very unfortunate record. Yeah, for companies that shouldn't. Like, I think I think if GTA charges $100, there will be a good chance that GTA is worth that $100.
Absolutely. Well,
I think a lot of companies following that.
Who else deserves it?
I can't think of anyone. Like
Witcher?
off rip. Witcher, sure. I would argue maybe Cyberpunk as is was on
Cyberpunk,
release.
if it would have released, finished, polished, working, sure.
I think like for a $100 game, you need to have a big game. So it can't be a 20-hour. I would argue that you can't even just spend 40 hours in that game. It has to be a 100+ hour game that you can do stuff. There has to be a whole bunch of dialogue options, side stuff you can do. It has to be a very in-depth game.
Agreed.
And most games don't meet that criteria, even when they have like sort of this pseudo depth of world, right? We can talk about some of the Assassin's Creed games, right? Valhalla or Odyssey. I think those are very big games. I don't think there's a whole lot of depth.
I haven't got the depth that Witcher and GTA have.
Yeah, 100%. And those games don't need it, but it doesn't have the depth to where I'm like, that warrants the $100 price tag. There's a quality that you'd expect in a $100 game from my perspective, and I don't think anything other than the three we mentioned would really warrant it. Red Dead Redemption as well, if we're talking about like IPs as opposed to just studios. Other than that, like I can't think of a Sony game. I can't think of an Xbox game. Definitely not a Nintendo game. If Nintendo ever sells a $100 game, I feel bad because that game's never going on sale, or the sale will be like $95.
I think it's again, think about all the games we just mentioned, right? Open world, single player, mainly focused. I know they have multiplayer elements, some of those games, but sour expectations are a hard one, Eldozo. I don't think we're going to get away from it for many years until the data is now dropped, and then the expectations have then dropped, because then they understand that they're going to be able to make a profit still, but the profit isn't going to be X amount. It's going to be X amount, you know?
COVID kind of fucked up gaming in a unfortunate way, where like gaming was having a natural growth. COVID sort of sped that up with people who wouldn't normally be gamers, and now they're able to go out and have a life. Then they're not gaming. The industry sort of like feeling. How did we
start this podcast, Crash? You don't sit and you sit and don't play games.
Oh okay, correct, yeah.
Like they like
no, 100%.
Like if you're not, you are literally on a podcast once a week talking about games, reacting to showcases, etc. You are literally saying, yeah, no, I'm just living life a bit more.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like if you're saying that, imagine what Dave from down the street who bought a PlayStation or an Xbox is sitting under his entertainment system just gathering dust.
Yeah. The amount of people that bought Switches for Animal Crossing during COVID.
Haley. Yeah. You think this... Bro, she used it for Animal Crossing and she used it for Dreamland Valley. That's it. New Zelda came out this week. I said, oh, baby, fancy getting Zelda? What's that?
That's where you got to teach her, and it's still...
She don't want to be teached, mate. She's playing a new game on her mobile, and I'm just like, you make me sick. I bought you an Xbox, She's got an Xbox, she's got a PlayStation, she's got a Switch, she's got a PC. She sits there playing this dumb mobile game. Makes me infuriated in my stomach, everyone. Infuriated. But that's the life I live.
Biggest gaming console out there.
Let's plug and get ourselves out of here. Crash, what are you going to plug this week?
My Xbox Me YouTube page. Go leave, subscribe, leave a comment on the latest podcast. If you do watch it on there and you want to leave questions, don't leave questions there. You can leave questions there, but
you can leave questions there. Jesus.
Look, here's the thing. How often do you check the YouTube for questions?
I check every comment. We just don't get that many comments.
Okay.
I do. I check. Why are you saying it like that?
I'm not saying it like anything. I trust you. There's not a lack of trust. I just didn't expect it.
It feels like I check every comment on all of my content because I care about my audience, Crash.
Also, podcast reviews.
You got one?
Leave podcast reviews.
You ain't got one.
Nope. No podcast review.
I was gonna say I'll check. 1 second. I'll check mine as well.
The last one was August 16th.
August 16th. That's not good, is it? Let's be honest. That's not good. No, yeah, mine's August 2nd. Feels bad.
I will say,
feels bad.
shout out to all the people who did comment on the last podcast on YouTube. We got a whole bunch of back comments.
Gotcha.
You knew about that, right, Fix?
I did, yeah.
Because you check it all the time, yeah.
Yeah, I knew. Of course I knew.
Yeah.
I don't like what you're insinuating.
I'm not insinuating. I completely trust you, Fix. I insinuate nothing.
Okay. All right. I'm watching you. Yeah, you can find me over at MCFixer. Yeah, keep subscribing to the YouTube channel. Keep supporting the channel. We're trying more and more. Maybe we'll do a live stream this week or next week, I should say, of Space Marine 2. Yeah, sorry for the late episode as well, by the way. Just a lot going on in the games industry, so we thought we had to record late. Until next time, we'll love ya, leave ya, see you later. Good boy.